There's the first of the showdown. Have a listen to this. Eddie's got two. Eddie gets it across, and Eddie's kicked four now. Eddie's got a tough one to negotiate. It's not tough for Eddie. He's got five.
And Tom Lynch got six, and together they gave our special guest tonight, Don Pyke, his first victory as Adelaide Crows coach. Welcome to you, Don.
Thanks, Jared. Yeah, great to be here.
And good news, Mark Rasciuto has produced his sixth child on the back of the Showdown win. He is considering calling him Don Rasciuto. I'm not sure it works.
I don't think that's right, but no, congratulations to Mark and Sarah. It's six is a big job, but I think he's going to stop at six.
How have you settled in?
Yeah, great. I mean, I've enjoyed the move over. It's a great footy club, and I've been fortunate to inherit a lot of really good people, you know, coaches down to players, and so really enjoying working with them.
What about the first showdown, Pyke? I mean, you've never had anything to do with the history of it. 40 showdowns over the journey. To you, is it just an extra game, or do you get caught up in the build-up?
Oh, I think you get caught up in the build-up. I've been part of it at West Coast and Fremantle with the Derby for a number of years there, so it's a great occasion for the fans of the club to come out. It was our home game. It was the first time that our fans had seen us since Unley Oval in February. So we had 51,500 turn up and make a lot of noise, which was great.
If you adopted that vision, you look very calm there. A bit too controlled. It must have been an easy stage of the game. Have we doctored that?
What's that?
You look relaxed. You look very relaxed in the box.
Well, I try and maintain as best I can a bit of relaxed demeanour because, you know, the players, we've got to make decisions up there, and the players want to look up and not see you jumping around off the walls, but trying to be as measured as we can be.
Adam Simpson, you spent a couple of years with him and with Neil Craig. Craigie was a bit more demonstrative, but I remember Simo in his first year, he was criticised by an old bloke called Mike Sheen on the couch for not being quite as demonstrative as he would have liked. I think he said he used to snort chloroform before he went in there.
Oh, look, I mean, everyone, I think the thing is you've got to be yourself.
Yeah.
That's the key, and that's, you know, I'm still, you know, early days, 2 games in, finding what makes me tick up there. I think you've got to have a level of engagement in the game. It's important that you're not there living and breathing every knock and bump, but you're actually engaged in what's happening on the game, because you're going to address the players, and the players want a sense that, you know, you're passionate about what you're doing, and so, you know, finding that balance is vital, and, you know, I'm working on it as we go.
Talking about those players, I mean, the generational gaps between the young players to the older players to yourself, how hard is it to manage and understand the different mindsets of all those types of players?
Yeah, well, that's one of the big challenges. I was talking to Brownie before. I mean, in terms of when you come into the club and you meet the players, and first thing I did was meet all the players and have a chat with them. It's you get a feel for exactly what makes them tick. Now, you know, we're early days in relationship, but it's so vital these days that you actually understand where they're coming from, their background, and what's going on in their life. Because at the end of it, you're coaching individuals, and they have particular needs, and trying to build that relationship is really vital.
Yeah, coming into the new club, Don, last year Adelaide won the final, but where did you see the improvement lied for the Crows? Now, we know Dangerfield, you lost him, granted that, but where did you feel, and some of the key personnel at the club feel the improvement comes from Adelaide this year?
Yeah, well, we looked at it as a coaching group. So when I started up, I had a number of coaches who were there from last year. Obviously, Scott Camperali, who's a senior assistant who coached the team for the last 8 games. We sat down with not only him but all the coaches who were there and went through where do we think that improvement comes from. I came from outside, so I had a perception, but talking to them, it was great to get their feeling. One of the areas we really focused on was just the basic fundamentals of the game. Our skill efficiency was poor. We were 18th or 17th for handball and kick efficiency, and clearly if you can't keep the ball in this day and age, it's hard. Now, that said, we scored really effectively last year. We were a high-scoring team, but our ability to defend wasn't as great. Now, that's something we continue to work on. But first things first was skill efficiency, and second thing was probably how we can improve our team defence.
Your defence was 10th. You've got a young man in Jake Lever coming through who looks a real find. Talia's also been an All-Australian. So what have you tweaked to get your defence to be an even better format than what you had last year?
Well, as you know, defence sort of starts everywhere. So we talk about defence, and it was interesting your comments about, you know, the Eagles and say the Hawthorn game, the forward pressure. Well, for us, that's really wherever the ball turns over is where our defence starts. And historically, it's been the back six, but, you know, we're finding, you know, with our back six, we're really keen to explore how they play, a bit of the concept of what you're talking about as well in terms of pressing the ground up,
Yep.
trying to make the ground as small as possible when we have the ball. So all those sort of defensive mechanisms we're playing around with. It's early days, it's work in progress, and we've still got some areas we want to keep working on and clearly improve.
What about the balancing act with your small forwards? Eddie Betts, we see roaming a bit higher up the field this year under your guidance. Wayne Miller looks like he's going to be a star. How are you going to utilise those guys going forward? Because Eddie's been such a damaging small forward inside 50, hasn't he?
Yeah, well, look, Eddie's a unique talent, and he has. He's dangerous inside that forward 50, but we need, especially with the cap rotation, we need the flexibility around players that can play multiple roles, and our mids are going to be resting forward, as most teams will, with the 90 cap. So we're looking for Eddie and for Wayne and these guys to be able to play midfield minutes or wing minutes as we go.
Did you get those minutes right with Eddie last week, though? He only had 4 possessions in the forward 50, and for us, he's probably a bloke who needs to spend 4% of his time outside of the forward 50.
Yeah, well, look, last week was an interesting one. He came up. We had a role for him the previous week, and he came up and he probably spent a bit long up in the midfield early. It meant when he got down deep, he wasn't as effective as we'd like. But for him, and especially the way the game's played, we want to get him in all lines of our forward line. So he's able to play high, he's able to play maybe in our middle line, and then able to play deep if his matchup is suitable.
He must have liked it. He must have liked it on the weekend. He had 13 inside the forward 50. That's an amazing day, isn't it?
Hey, just talking about Miller, I know a few good judges think he could be the find of the draft. Is there a ceiling on what he's capable of?
Oh, look, he's a great young talent, Wayne. I mean, he's been since he came to the club. He's got a smile on his face every day. He loves coming to training. He does the work, and so it's great to give him an opportunity and see him start the journey in terms of his AFL career. Where he can get to, I don't know, and that comes down to hard work that he's going to do from here on.
And he's part of a great forward line there, Don. Just tell us a little bit about Tex Walker. Did he strike you straight away? His leadership around the club, his presence around the club. Obviously, he's got a great presence in the forward line.
Yeah, look, Tex is meeting Tex the first time. Clearly has a presence about him, and he holds himself really strongly within the player group. And his leadership's developing as we go. He was thrust into the role last year and was really strong through it. It was a difficult year for the footy club, and he continues to grow as a leader and provide that really strong, both physical and sort of verbal presence on the ground, which is important.
And he looks like he's had a positive influence on Josh Jenkins as well, working with him.
Yeah, well, as a leader who's playing down the forward line, I mean, he's working with Josh, he's working with all those forwards. Tom Lynch, who won the Showdown medal yesterday, those guys have got a really tight group, and they're a very selfless group, which is the great thing. I mean, generally the forwards, it's often a challenge because they see the big sticks, but those guys work really well together, which is really pleasing.
Your ball movement was fantastic on the weekend. We showed some of the highlights before. We probably focused on Port Adelaide more than you guys, but you were able to kick 10 goals out of your defensive 50 on fast counter-attack. This is probably the way the game's going, isn't it? And to be proficient here really gives you hope going forward. I know you had 15 fewer inside 50s, but when you got your hands on the ball, you look likely to score.
Yeah, look, and that's, again, one thing we focused on coming in. As I said, from the skill viewpoint, we were mindful of we want to try and move the ball as quickly as we can, especially out of our back half. And so, on the weekend, we had the opportunity. We did it really effectively. Now, is that going to be the case every week?
I like this
Maybe
kick.
not.
Yeah, it's a good kick.
You said a selfless kick.
Yeah.
We've actually set a record. In the second game, Don. That's the most counter-attack scores out of the defensive 50 since 2008 by any team. So that's a fantastic start.
So 10 goals when the competition average is 3 goals. That's some effort.
It was 14 out of the defensive half, but 10 out of that defensive 50. They've had to go full length of the ground. You must be thrilled with the mix of player that you've got down there.
Yeah, look, and those guys have embraced how we want to play and how we want to move the ball. And as I said, the work we've done with them on their skill stuff, now they're prepared to back themselves in. And that allows us to move the ball quickly. Do I want to rely on 10 goals out of the back half every week? No, because it means the ball's down there too often. So we've got to make sure that we get that balance right as well.
It's great news for you, not so great for Port Adelaide. I'm interested in your analytical ability. It's well known in the footy world. You're a fairly sharp on the analytics. What do you focus on as a coach as far as the numbers are concerned?
Pretty much everything. It's the way we want to play is pretty balanced, and we're really looking to make sure. And it starts at the contest. I don't think any coach sitting here would tell you that you can't win this game and you can't win it consistently unless you're strong in the contest. So it starts there for us, but then it's our ability to transition both ways. So we sort of, I'm looking at it from how the opposition want to play, how we want to play, but fundamentally most of what we do these days is about how we want to play, because that's what we train all pre-season to do, and we have to adapt and be flexible enough with how we want to defend, how we want to attack around what opposition we make in front or what game we're playing.
And do you adapt your game style to the personnel you have, or you're very rigid in the style of game that you want the Adelaide Crows to play?
It's adaptable a bit to the personnel, but it's each person within the club or within the side brings their own unique strengths, and so it's hard to have hard, fast rules to say you do this in this situation, because the capabilities of each player is different. Some guys can kick at 40 metres, some guys can kick at 60, so they can hit the kick over the back, whereas the guy can only kick at 40. He's restricted a bit in terms of the options he can take, so try and give the players a framework and some principles, but it's not hard and fast rules. It's more you play what you see and you play what you're capable of hitting, and at the end of it, do they get it right all the time? No, they don't, but at least having a go, and they're exploring exactly what they can do and what they can how they can use the ball.
Illicit drugs within the game is a massive issue, and it's been spoken about a lot, highlighted in recent weeks. Are you a fan of the current illicit drugs policy?
Hard to say whether I'm a fan of the drugs policy. I think what we need to see from the drugs policy is make sure it's really clear what the aim of the policy is between the AFL and the Players Association. If it's around the concept of education and obviously the welfare of the players, then I'm all for it. Whether it's zero tolerance or not, I'm probably leaning more towards going, we need to just educate and understand what all the numbers out there mean to make sure that we get the right policy for the players, given that we've got a cross-section of community playing our game and young men playing our game. So I'm not sure if zero tolerance is achievable, but that said, it depends which way the Players Association and the AFL want to head it.
Don, you, as a club, you've been savaged by losing players to opposition clubs. Have you got a view on free agency where it should sit, the 8 to 10 years or the 6 to 8 model?
Look, I think it's probably more the 8. I'm probably around more the 8 years. From a club viewpoint, obviously we lost a player this year to it, but I think what will happen is it'll be swings and merry-go-rounds. You might lose one year and might pick someone up, the next year. So we'll see how that plays out.
You were in the coach's box last time there was a grand final played, assistant coach to Adam Simpson. Now, you're probably in the process of being appointed by Adelaide, so have you ever reviewed that grand final and worked out, in your mind, just a number of things that you thought were fundamental to the loss?
I've only looked at the game briefly. I sort of, as you say, after the grand final, I sort of later that week was appointed to this role.
Yep.
And I've been pretty busy since then, to be honest, Jared. But I have had a quick look at it. It wasn't great viewing. Obviously, the disappointment of that day, given my role at West Coast at the time, and I felt for the players who'd had a terrific year to date, but weren't able to get it done on that day. There were some things in there which, and again, I haven't seen the game from the weekend. There were some things in there which I'm sure that on review the coaches would have adjusted through the pre-season period. Everybody
has either had you in the 8 or out of the 8. The one thing that we do know is that according to Champion Data, you got one of the hardest draws, particularly in the first part of the season, and you're midway through. You're 2 games in and you're running at 50%. This constitutes a pretty tough task for a new coach.
Well, the draw's the draw. I mean, I've said it since day dot. I mean, everyone talks about the draw. Reality for us is we've got Richmond this Saturday, and we'll deal with whoever's after that, when we get to it. I mean, we can't deal with, it's cliche, but we can't deal with anything more than what's in front of us, and that's Richmond, as it was for Port Adelaide last week. So, and history says the draw changes depending upon how sides go. I mean, we're still in a feeling out process as a league at the moment, trying to work out who's improved, who hasn't, and how it all sits. And we'll see, but we'll deal with Richmond this Saturday. Speaking of draws, you're a scratch golfer. Are you finding time to maintain that handicap? Well, I'm maintaining it because I'm not playing, so it's not adjusting. But I'm sort of committed to try and hit some balls at least once a week, whether it's 9 holes or just to get out in the range. It's good for me to be able to just switch off. And certainly the leadership group said to me they expect me to play a little bit of golf because the last thing they want is me getting to round 10 or round 15 and sort of coming into the club and dragging in, with a sorry look on my face. So it's good to be able to get out and enjoy some time on the golf course. Don, we're asking every one of our guests this year whether they take the big bopper forward as in a Jesse Hogan, or they're a fan of the new hybrid sensation like a Jake Stringer. Hogan or Stringer, where do you see? Well, I'm a fan of both. I'll lean towards Hogan.
Yes, we've got one.
Yes,
we've tied it up.
That's not right.
If we tied it up, well, we might have hit the front. We've only had 3 shows. We've hit the front.
Can't hit the front.
There's only one scorecard.
What was the reason? Did you give us a reason? Or did they intimidate you, these two?
No, he's He's a Western Australian boy.
Oh, there you go.
Don, you've had a great night except for the final minute. Well done on the weekend. The scorecard for the Showdown is 19-21 in favour of Port. But as far as you're concerned, you're 1 from 1. So well done and good luck for the rest of you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, mate.
Don Pyke, our special guest here on the Couch. But plenty more to come, including a look at the Bombers. Weren't they just absolutely magnificent? Ross Lyon has got his own problems and they face a derby. And Big Bud's back and so too are the Swans. And speaking of big boys, no one was bigger than Lynch on the weekend.